Welcome back to another devlog video for Appleocalypse. So this video is going to be a bit longer because I have to discuss basically everything that's happened for the past few months before I move on to the next video to discuss the newer updates. It's going to be a little bit long, but I'm going to try to skim over through everything that I have written down on my notes. First, it began after I broke Gloop's Day Out, and I began to wonder if I even should continue it. Well, I was thinking one day, I was eating an apple, and it kind of popped into my head, man, how does Apple got here? How far the distance it took? And it finally pondered one good question. If an apple can affect the world around it, how much more can a person? I began to design the apple as best as I can on Photoshop, and even though it wasn't symmetrical, I kind of liked how it looked. I started to think of gameplay-wise for this game, what should I do? Then I took the idea I had for Gloop's Day Out that I got from Kirby. Then I decided to do a game where there's multiple paths and you can get different abilities, different powers. And unlike Kirby, you get to keep the powers and abilities as you go along. Originally, I wanted to do a Metroidvania style game, but as time went on, it turned more to a platformer hybrid type game. Then I began a game document and found one on Nunkulino, I think that's how you pronounce it, kind of the one I like best. I kind of recommend it if you want to start making game devs to do a game document. This is pretty much the website I use. It is like $6 a month, but it's worth it. Now, as I was working on the game document, I was kind of also working in the game at the same time. I decided on a pixel style version of the game, kind of like Mario. However, I didn't know how to do pixel style, but I then remembered that I had a Udemy course, thanks James Oil, on how to make a platform game. And with the course, it came some tile formats, stuff like that. So I used that instead of like copying and stealing. I used that as a reference point on the size and shape of certain tiles and designed my own tiles through that. And while working on both the document and the game itself, the thought of, oh crap, I need to do some social media stuff popped up in my mind. So I originally did Twitter, but I needed a little bit more or somewhat unique way to advertise my game, or at least a way that doesn't feel like social media at the same time, because I'm really bad at that. So with the help of my friend Bushido Panda, I began streaming some of the work I did on Mondays, twitch.tv/ABC Studios, to kind of advertise the game, and at the same time on other days of the week, play some games to relax, to kind of get some more inspiration, stuff like that. And as more things begin to pile upon me, I realized I really need to plan out my days every week. So I started scheduling myself. Every day, every Saturday, I schedule my week out. At first it was hard, especially the first few months, because I'm not the type of person to follow a to-do list. But as time went on, I got used to it, I got used to the rhythm. And that's how I'm able to do this list, because I've kept track till far. Thank you, to-do list. Once the first set of tiles was done, I started to plug everything in Unity. I made some background stuff. I was able to learn how to do parallax layers. Thank you, Thomas Brush. However, the first big trouble began is when I tried to do some platforms. So originally, the way that tiles are, then you can set it up as that the whole tile itself is basically solid, or you can decide that only the drawing inside the tile is solid. So the platform was going to be the branches of the tree. However, Unity didn't know how the proper sizing of it and made them too big, and you couldn't jump through it, kind of how you can do with some platforms. So first I decided to create a second map layer of tiles to kind of separate it, but that didn't work. So just as I am always making things difficult for myself, everything is on one tile map, but I added box colliders to specifically the branches, individually hand by hand, and then adding the effect of platforms. So now every single platform in my game has that layer, and oh my god, it's terrible. After overcoming this hurdle, a harder hurdle happened. I didn't know until at that point that I am terrible at level designing. I am good at making sprites, design stuff. I'm decent at coding, but when it comes to actually designing and mapping out a level, I'm terrible at it. I just couldn't do it, and it took me about a week or two to finish just level 1, but I got it done. Level 1, the hill, was done. After that, I began to work on stuff for the player character, the apple. Health system, healing drops. Originally the healing drops would have been seeds, but I am terrible making seeds, so I made it water droplets instead. Then I began to work on damage and death animations, and I made a list of abilities and mapping how to get them. I ended up with about 23 abilities / apple types for this. After making the list, I now realized that I will come to regret this later, which I will explain in a different video. After all this, I then began working on 2 enemies out of the bunch I'm going to end up making. The worms and the squirrels. I created both animation and idle animation for both of these characters. The worm is more of a standstill creature, kind of like Spikes, while the squirrel is a more of a patrol type creature that just goes back and forth in the same area, pausing every so often. The size of it was a little bit difficult to figure out because the size comparison between the squirrel and the apple, I changed it a few times, but now I have it in a way where I like it. Then I began working on the pause menu and the main menu, which wasn't really that hard, kind of just did it in one single day. However, this next part is where really a lot of mental pain happened. Now remember when I said I am not good at level design? Well, at this point I decided to create level 2, the park, in my game. It took me almost 2 to 3 weeks to make it. It's a simple, straightforward level, but to design it and have it look at least presentable in my eyes took too long. I had to design not only the tiles, but the background of it, which I didn't end up actually changing, and the extra sprites that go into it. I just couldn't decide on how I want to build it, which is funny enough because I have mapped out the entire game, the level of what's going to look like, the different worlds / levels. I have it. I've mapped, drawn out, but how theory and execution looks, it does not work well at all. It wasn't until I decided later on to add NPCs that which are not really interactable, but they interact with the world around it, is where it began to look a little bit more lively. After getting NPCs done, which took a little bit extra, another week to do, I got it to where it's at least I can look at it and not say, hey, this is a terrible thing, what are you doing? While this was all going on, something weird was going on with the squirrels. For some reason, the squirrels began to float, and I kind of looked everywhere in my codes and animation to figure it out. It wasn't until I asked somebody online to help me, and they just told me, hey, why not try freezing the Y position in the rigid body? Thank you, Jedi. This took a little bit too long to figure it out. Another side note to add, the NPCs that were going to be in the park were originally going to be adults. However, they didn't look right, and why would adults be in the park during the day? So I changed them into kids, and yeah, that just looks a lot more natural, a lot more better. So here is where we get to the big part, basically the main core of the game, abilities. Originally, I wanted to do a simple scroll to change abilities, but to get it right, I wanted to originally test it using a simple bull. So to kind of explain bull to you guys, it's basically on and off switch, basically a yes or no thing. In Unity, it shows up as like a square with a check mark on it or a check mark off. Basically saying if this is on, then this is happening. If this is off, this is happening. That is what originally I was trying to test out, but I just couldn't get it to work. And I was too scared to go full on, try to create the ability thing, wheel that I was going to do. It wasn't until somebody just told me online, hey, just do it. And I want to thank Lucas for that because he kind of put me towards Zyger's video on how to make a weapon wheel. And through that, I was able to modify it into a power wheel, which worked. I was able to make the power wheel to do a double jump and a simple single jump type abilities. It was just a test run and it worked. So that is where I'm at now. Well, I'd say caught up, but basically a little bit more ended up happening that week. I ended up figuring out how to do the skin changing along with the ability similar to Kirby. Basically summoning a new animation using a ball through Unity's animator system that whenever the red apple is active, the skin is normal, it's idle, it's set in stone. But whenever the bitten apple ability is active, the animator will change the skin to the bitten apple according to the bowl and give it its own new path of a idle and a jump. As I finished the new animation skin change, I figured out one thing. Here's something very important. Whenever you change scenes, that system deletes it. So the goal was originally to have the abilities inactive until you unlock it. However, let's say you unlock it and you go to a different scene, you should already have it, but Unity deletes all the stuff in that scene to create a new scene with the new stuff. So I spent a little bit of time trying to figure this out on how to be able to change scenes, load scenes without losing that progress, but I couldn't figure anything out. But thanks to Quill18, he kind of explained 3 different ways on how to keep your saves whenever you change scenes, and the one I went with was don't destroy on load. I think that how it's called if I remember correctly. Basically, whenever you change scenes, if you tell it not to destroy this particular thing, it will transfer over to the new scene alongside the load. However, whenever you do that, that means the next level also has a copy of it. So after tinkering around with the code, I was able to figure out how to be able to transfer your progress, so whenever you unlock something on the ability wheel, to the next scene alongside you, and B, to destroy the one that's on there without losing data, basically having this one wheel wherever you're at to go along and follow with you. And that's basically it, at least right now at the time of the recording. So let me explain to you what's going on with this week the video is posted. I'm working on level 3. Please pray for me, but it should be that hard. It's basically called the parking lot. There's just gonna be a bunch of cars around. Probably the easiest thing I'm gonna end up doing. Then again, I said the last time about the park, and it didn't really work out that way. And I'm also going to work on ability 3 and 4, testing out how the animation's going. Hopefully it goes well. Yeah, that should really be it about this week. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, comment below. Ask me on Twitter on 8PC Studios, or whenever I'm live on Twitch, 8PC Studios on Twitch. Click like and subscribe if you want to. I'm not the boss, so you don't have to listen to me. And I'll see you all later.